As legal battles continue and voters look ahead to next year's contests, Texas's redistricting fight has become a focal point of the nationwide struggle over control of Congress. Among those vying for the seat of newly drawn District 32 is Jace Yarbrough, who ran for a North Texas state Senate seat in 2024, but lost a Republican primary battle. He's back, and in this bid for Congress, he has secured endorsements from President Donald Trump, Governor Greg Abbott, Turning Point USA, and many other powerful individuals and organizations.
So yeah, like now there's a whole history. We can get into sort of the role that the Bible has played in American education previously, but for the majority of our history, that is in fact what we did. Right? And the sky didn't fall, and in fact we experienced more cohesion. And the scriptures also, they are the richest. They're more than literature, but they are the richest gift of literature that we have. Right? I said, I don't come from a polished family, but my parents gave me the Bible and told me to take it seriously. And that is the thing I would point to more than anything else in terms of any academic success that I have had, and the degrees that I have, and the places I've been. If I could only give one book to Texas school children, to American school children, and tell them to take it seriously, it would be the Bible. Today I can give them almost short of a Playboy, but you know what I can't give them? I can't give them a Bible. That speech that I gave, right? My muse was Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and the thesis of the speech was don't participate in conduct or language that you know is dishonest. I used as my theme Solzhenitsyn's quip from A Candle in the Wind, let the lie come, but not through me. And the idea was, okay, maybe the left and its radical, crazy ideology and its deceitful ideology ultimately wins, but don't participate in the lie. Let the lie come, but not through me, okay? That was one of the phrases that they highlighted and quoted that I said that showed poor judgment. They want men beating up women in girls' sports. They want to sterilize my children without my knowledge. They want to prevent me from having grandchildren so that I can't pass on my values and my way of life to them. I'm done, bro.
Jace Yarbrough, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to introduce you with the words of Donald J. Trump.
Please be my guest.
That just came through pretty recently. That must have been awesome. Here's what old Donnie has to say about you. Let's see what he said something out on Truth. He said, "It is my great honor to endorse America First patriot Jace Yarbrough, who is running to represent the wonderful people of Texas 32nd Congressional District. A brave Air Force veteran, Jace knows the wisdom and courage required to defend our country, support our military veterans, and ensure peace through strength. Additionally, as a very successful Stanford Law School graduate and business attorney, Jace knows how to create jobs, cut taxes and regulations, promote Made in the USA, unleash American energy dominance, and champion our nation's golden age. In Congress, he will fight tirelessly to keep our borders secure, stop migrant crime, ensure law and order, safeguard our elections, and protect our always under siege Second Amendment. Jace Yarbrough has my complete and total endorsement to be the next representative from Texas 32nd Congressional District. He will never let you down." That's some words right there. What did you think when you saw that?
Well, it was pretty surreal, to be honest. I thought, man, I grew up in a town of 700 people in rural Texas. So for the President of the United States, especially Donald Trump, who greatest president of my lifetime, hands down, to say something like that about you, man, I appreciate it, obviously, but had to pinch myself a little bit. I called my brother pretty much immediately. It's the first thing I did.
Were you worried it was from like a fake account?
Well, see, so you get to that point, right, in this business where like something pops up online and you go to your guys, right? And you're like, hey, fellas, is this bulletproof? Like, can I go to press with this? Like, are we for real? But it was very gratifying. Obviously, it matters a lot to me. Also because of what it speaks to. I think because of the sort of campaign we're running, the life that I've lived, the things that I've done to suggest, hey, I'm with you on this one, sir. Let me come and move some freight for you. Let me be a part of the team that's getting so many wins. Let's secure a lot of the wins that we've realized over the past, he hadn't even been in office, been a year yet? A little over a year now. And so that was really gratifying too. And that's what I'm looking forward to as well, right? Is to actually getting to work and addressing some of the things we've been talking about so much, obviously, on the campaign trail. So, yeah, it was gratifying, was grateful. Also comes with a lot of responsibility, though. And so we're doing everything we can to live up to a lot of the words that the president so graciously included in that post.
Absolutely. Well, before we get started, I want to say some more things about you, a little bit about your bio. 7th generation Texan. So your family been here a while.
Yeah, that's right.
And of course, you're a veteran of the U.S. Air Force, and you're still enrolled. You were.
Yep, I'm an active reservist.
Active reservist.
Yep. I'm stationed out at Headquarters Space Systems Command out at Cape Canaveral, Florida.
You have a bachelor degree from UT Austin, 2 of those.
Yep, that's right.
Electrical engineering and government. Then a law degree from Stanford Law School. So you kind of downgraded schools there. And then this was interesting. You taught calculus, physics, and Western civilization in Honduras.
That's true. I did do that, yeah, for 1 year. I did.
After feeling the call to serve his country, he enlisted in the U.S. Air Force, led engineering teams to develop DoD weapons systems worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Currently as an Air Force Reserve in the military, has won numerous military declarations and awards and continues serving today in the Air Force Reserves. After law school, Jace was a commercial litigator, but eventually left big law to fight for conservative causes in Texas and protect our American constitutional rights. You sued the United States Air Force.
I did. I think technically I sued the Space Force, but yes.
Oh, okay.
That
Space
is true.
Force. Okay.
Yeah, technically I think it was the Space Force.
No big deal, right?
Yeah, right.
And I want to talk about that because they formally disciplined you for refusing to take the COVID shot.
So, actually, I was formally disciplined for refusing to get the COVID vaccine. That is not what that litigation is about.
Okay.
So there's that litigation arose, and I can tell you the story about the vaccine. I think that's an important story. It's important for people to know just how deep the rot within the department at the time, the Department of Defense, had gone. But I am in litigation as a client of First Liberty Institute, which is a nonprofit religious liberty law firm out in Plano.
Okay.
Because I was formally reprimanded for comments I delivered at a buddy's retirement ceremony. I said a couple things that a flautist in the Navy quartet that was there to play musical honors took issue with.
What'd you say?
Among other things, men can't birth babies and boys shouldn't be in girls' locker rooms.
Wild.
Yes. Well.
Radical. Right there.
Yeah. Anyway, but yes, he filed a formal complaint against me. My command opened an investigation. They reprimanded me for conduct unbecoming and exhibiting poor judgment. And so we pushed back and ultimately went to litigation in federal district court. So just got a good win back in October, I think, of 2025. And we can sort of talk about the valence of that case if you want, but just another example of how the left is using institutions that normal folks have to rely on, whether it's the military or local police department or public school or the library, and they weaponize them and they use them for their ideological ends and purposes. And,
did you feel, was it kind of like, man, sorry, Jace, we got to do this. It's coming from our uppers. I know it's ridiculous. Or what, did you feel like, no, they wanted to?
No, I did not feel in any way like those who were executing whatever directive they had were apologetic about it in any way.
You didn't feel like they were like, we have to do it.
No, it was, they were, and I don't know if they were, a lot of times in the military, you get the order from, the guys above you and you got to go sell lipstick on a pig and, you go put a good face on it and do it. That's just the way the military works. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what they were doing, I don't know, but I got no indication that anybody was sympathetic at all to, my perspective.
Yeah. Now you have 5 children.
That's
married
right.
to your high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
Which I am too.
Is that right?
That's right.
That's great. Yeah.
So, and her name's Elizabeth?
Her name's Elizabeth.
Okay,
yes.
so you have a beautiful family. Tell me.
I do have a beautiful family.
Tell me about these kids here. What are their names?
Yeah, so I'll start with the oldest who's there on the right. That's my oldest son. His name's Haven Burke. Haven after my grandfather. My granddad's name was Haven. Mm-hmm. Burke is Edmund Burke. So I remember reading, he has a book, and I don't want to get too pointy-headed or nerdy about this, but he's got a book called Reflections on the Revolution in France. Oh, yeah. And I read that book when I was in my early 20s, and a lot of he is sometimes seen as the father of modern conservatism in the United States, philosophically at least. And I had never read Burke before, but so many of the things that he said, I just thought, I know these things. I know them intuitively, and I have known them. And so I was very taken with that and appreciative of him. His most famous quip is probably the one, all that's necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. That's probably Burke's most famous sort of. Anyway, and then my next daughter, so she's there on the left, her name's Cecily Catherine, and she is sweet as can be, a delight. She wakes up in the morning, sees me, gives me a big smile, and I think every time what she wants to tell me is, Dad, here we are again, you and me together. Isn't that the greatest thing? So love her. Then my next one is there on the right again, my son Elliot. He is a very quiet, perceptive, he's kind of my quiet killer.
Those are the dangerous ones.
They are. He is the dangerous one, man, and I love that little guy. Then over there on the very left is Simeon Carver. So Simeon after Saint Simeon, and then Carver after George Washington Carver.
Okay.
For those that know him and his story, my wife and I on our honeymoon stumbled onto the George Washington Carver National Historic Museum in Joplin, Missouri. We just happened to kind of be passing through, and it was an experience we loved, and his story is one that we enjoyed. So, and then my baby right there in the middle, her name is Chaley. And if you can't tell by her picture, all the other ones have my wife's beautiful blonde hair and blue eyes, but that one's got my brown hair and hazel eyes. You don't have favorites, but helps when they look like you.
That's right.
You know. She's also wearing, you can see in that picture, she's got those boots on. Well, our theme for the day was sort of like muted tones, right? We're going to take some pictures. Let's not be too flashy. Well, she was going to wear them boots, man. And so she put them on.
So a little headstrong.
Yeah. She's got her opinions about the world.
I've got one of those. I've got 17-year-old twin girls.
Whoa.
Yeah.
The Lord bless and keep you, man. Yes, you are. Holy moly.
So anyway, when she was probably about 4, we got her into basketball. You know, you should probably wear tennis shoes, you know.
Sure.
She had these little tap black dance shoes. She was not going to go out there with them. So to this day, we still remember her with that little basketball and those tap shoes.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
But yeah, she's my one you cannot, if she's made up her mind, that is it. So
Yeah, I got one of those, man.
Now let's go back to your upbringing. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Stephenville, but raised just outside of Abilene mostly, a little town called Tuscola. I did spend about 5 years growing up in a small town in the Panhandle outside Amarillo. So my dad had blue-collar jobs. At the time, he was working for Pitney Bowes, a big mailing manufacturing company. And
what did he do there?
Well, he was a service rep. So when a company purchased a piece of equipment that broke under warranty, and then they called in, my dad was the guy that would go to their location and fix it. He was very good at fixing things. And so he did that for a time. He was a wind turbine tech for a time, so he fixed the big wind turbines. And then his last job, after we had all gotten out of high school, he was a long-haul trucker.
Now, how many of you were there?
4. I'm the oldest of 4.
Okay. And Mom stayed at home?
Mom was a homemaker. She started doing little things as we got older, like substituting at the local school.
Sometimes tough through there?
Yeah, I mean, my dad was a part of that first generation that, you know, it wasn't easy just having a high school degree, right? Because a lot of the middle class has been hollowed out over the past, 3 or 4 decades because of some decisions that we've made as to, the posture we're going to take toward the global economy. But anyway, yes, it was, I never went hungry or anything like that. But we were definitely working class, lower working class, and that's fine. I mean, the thing about it was my parents stayed married at least until I got out of high school. They took me to church. We were Baptists, so it was twice on Sunday and every Wednesday night.
Southern Baptist?
Southern Baptist, that's right.
You say Southern Baptist.
Southern Baptist Church, that's right. That's how you say that. My granddad was a Southern Baptist pastor.
Oh, so was mine.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Where did he? Was he here in
Texas? He was in Garland. He did a lot of prison ministry.
Okay, all right.
So yeah.
My family's roots are way out west. So my granddad retired as the pastor of the First Baptist Church in rural Texas, population 400-ish. So those are little bitty, dusty West Texas towns. So that was a heritage. And my mom made me do my homework before I went outside to play. right? They gave me the Bible and said, take it seriously. You give a kid that kind of upbringing, you're fine. And,
Did you feel solid in your faith right away? Or were there times you veered, or how?
I never did. So I'm the oldest of 4, and I'm a typical firstborn. I take everything way too seriously, and always have.
I'd say you did.
Yeah, I did.
Continue.
I did. Yeah, I probably do. So no, I've never had a time where I've wandered from the faith. Never had a time where the way I phrase it now and what I pray for my own children, I've never known a day apart from the Lord and His grace, for which I'm grateful. And a lot of that has to do with just the heritage of, again, my family was not like a refined family. I never saw my dad read anything, newspaper, book, anything. We didn't talk about politics. We didn't talk about current events. But they gave me the Bible and said, hey, hide it in your heart, read it, study it. And, there is no richer text, and it's more than just that, but there is no richer text in the Western tradition than the Scriptures, than the Christian Scriptures. It calls forth more from you. It's tough. You grapple with it. The God that inspired it is Himself eternally true, and so you can never sort of plumb the depths of that. And that experience, I attribute that to, people say, oh, you went to the University of Texas and got these degrees, and you went to a fancy law school. Right?
Yeah.
How were you able to hang? And I point back to just, at one point, I think I had the whole epistle of James memorized, right? Wow. That was how seriously, we took the Scriptures, and they're so rich, and so that's what I point to. So it was my parents gave me a good upbringing, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You, so you obviously probably did really well in school.
I did. Yeah, I was good at getting good grades.
And then how did it end up at UT? Was that the goal from the beginning, or?
No. So I remember, this is a funny story. I told my dad, "Hey, Dad, I think I'm gonna go to college." And he said, "Well, if you're gonna go to college, you better be able to get a job making more than $40,000 a year, because I can get you that driving a truck right now." And so I went up to our library at high school, and I on the internet somehow found a list of average salaries upon graduation from the University of Texas at Austin. I knew UT had to accept me because I was going to graduate in the top 10% of my high school class. And so I printed that out, and I went home, and at the top was petroleum engineering, and my mom said, "You're not living in Houston." I thought, okay, well,
What'd she have against Houston?
I got no idea. It's too far away or something. Yeah. I don't know. You're not going to do that. Okay. Well, what's number 2? Number 2 was electrical engineering. What's that? I don't know, but I guess that's what I'm doing. And so I didn't have a laptop or a computer until an uncle gave me a secondhand one as a high school graduation present. And I remember I pulled up to my dorm at UT in my long bed extended cab Chevy, got a parking ticket minutes later. It didn't take long. And I go to my first EE class, and it's like, all right, you need to download this development platform. This is what you're going to use to sort of do your first programming assignment. And I was like, what the heck's a download and what's a development platform? It was, I was coming from a place, I'll tell you. But, if you've seen The Pursuit of Happiness, that's sort of how my undergrad experience felt. Fighting against the system every which way, because there were a lot of things I didn't know. But that was a really good experience, because, man, it taught me to just, the thing about that program, you just pick at a problem. And you just never give up on it. You're just picking and picking and picking. And I'm grateful for that.
Until you finally get it.
Yeah.
And you will if you stick.
That's right. Yeah. And that was good for me.
Now, you also have a degree in government. So as you read the text and, senators and congressmen, and, were you ever like, one day? Or was it literally like, I would never do that? Or what were you thinking as a college kid reading about?
Well, so I'll tell you the reason I had a government. So it was because of a professor, a relationship. I'll say this. So I was on track actually to graduate early with my EE, because I'd met my wife in high school, and I just wanted to marry her.
Did she go to school with you or stayed at home?
She's younger than me, but she graduated a year ahead of me. She went to Abilene High School, so we went to different high schools. She graduates a year ahead of me. She goes down to UT. She's there in their music school.
Oh, wow. What does she play? Or?
Voice is her primary instrument, but she plays piano and the guitar as well. Okay. So she's a colored trio soprano. classically trained coloratura soprano. So she sings very beautifully. I was just like, hey, I want to get married. To get married, I have to have money. Like, let's just get done with this degree, you know. And I just kind of put my head down. And I remember I had to take this required government class. It was we got married after my sophomore year, my wife and I. So I was in my first semester, my third year. Had to take this required government class. Was going to graduate in 3, basically. And I come to the end of the semester. It was a class on the constitutional debates. I remember being frustrated because I was working at a research lab at the time, and the only class that fit with my work schedule was taught by this guy with a Polish name that I couldn't pronounce, and I was sure he was going to have an accent. I wasn't going to be able to understand anything. And I was upset, like, why would I get some Polish dude to come teach me about American government, you know? Like, this doesn't make sense. Yeah. Turns out he's like one of the only conservative, Christian, serious, like, thinkers at the University of Texas.
So even then, did you feel any indoctrination or?
Not through him at all. No.
I mean, in general.
Oh, the university?
Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I went to freshman orientation, and it was the whole, you know, stand up and talk about why you're a special butterfly and why the world's against you because you're, you know, have some, you know, inherent characteristic that you can't change, that, you know, the system's against you. I mean, all that just sort of silly Marxist stuff.
Tell us how you're a victim.
That's exactly right.
I'll tell you why you haven't gotten what you should get.
That's exactly right. This is my excuse.
And you weren't raised like that, it sounds like.
No, not at all. You know, and it was funny to me because I was just thinking about all the things, because it seemed to me like everybody else sort of got the joke. I mean, I remember going, my first class, 8 a.m. My first class as a freshman, 8 a.m. was advanced calculus for engineers. Okay. Now I had a really good calculus teacher in high school. And so I was ready, you know. And so I'm in there and we're working through some things. And the professor, he writes EG, which, you know, for example is what it means. But so he writes EG on something. He just pauses and says, what does this mean? And in unison, the whole class came back with the Latin for whatever that was.
Yeah.
And I thought, man,
I didn't learn what I was supposed to learn.
Bro, I'm out of my league right here, you know. And so things like that would happen, and I just thought, like, okay, well, I clearly have some disadvantage, like these people all know. And there were kids that had been in programming competitions that were just blowing and going. You know what? It took me, I sat down at my laptop to do my first programming assignment, which was print out a pyramid of asterisks with 5 rows. So 1, 3, 5, right? That's all you got to do. Now, we're doing it in zeros and ones. It took me 12 hours to write that program, okay? You know, clearly there are things that I don't have that other people have, right? Yeah. But that's not an excuse to be like, oh, well, I'm oppressed and because I'm poor and I didn't have the tutors and wasn't part of it. Like, no, it's just like figure it out and you do. And everybody's dealing with something and everybody's got their own strengths and weaknesses. There are things from people's backgrounds that make certain things more difficult for them or easier for them. And
why do you think liberals get so pissed off when you talk about to pull yourself up by the bootstrap?
Yeah, I mean, so I think liberalism fundamentally, they take one thing that's true and they blow it up and it basically just like destroys everything else. So the way I've heard it described is a guy named C.S. Lewis, who's a thinker that I really appreciate. He's got a book called The Abolition of Man. And he talks about this and he likens it to a tree. He calls it the tree of morality. And every branch is its own different moral consideration: justice, virtue, temperance, self-control, right? The liberals, they take one of those branches, they break it off, and they beat the rest of the tree with it. That one thing that they care about is protecting victims. That's a good thing. That's a noble thing. As a father, one of my jobs is to make sure that I'm a protector for those who have been entrusted to me. That's good, but it's not the only thing.
Yeah.
And it's that lack of context. It's sort of the explosion of this one principle, victimhood, oppressed versus oppressor, that dominates their thinking. And it leads to insanity. It leads to craziness. It leads to outcomes that are absolutely at odds. And you can't even ultimately be internally consistent with it. And you can see that from the nature of the project, right? Which is, I'm going to draft off of this intuition that I have, this intuition that comes to me from a traditional moral perspective, a traditional morality itself. And I'm going to use it to destroy traditional morality, basically. Right. So you can see the inherent contradiction that's there. But
absolutely, that does. For me, that's always summed it up. If you could really try to say, and I've got a few liberal friends, that I can actually talk to, and
Good.
that haven't, said you're a horrible, hateful racist. We're never going to talk to you again. I had a lot of those.
Sure.
But my thing, and tell me if you agree to this, and you just discussed it, but it's either it comes down to I am a victim, and black people are victims. Poor people are victims.
Yeah.
They didn't get what they need. We've got to make it okay for them because they can't do it,
Yeah.
and that almost seems racist.
Yeah.
And classist in itself.
Yes. Yes.
But would you say that's a good, if you're trying to sum up the ideology of the left versus the right, is that a good place to start?
The way I think about it is the paradigm for the left is oppressed versus oppressor. So they'll find that, and they can find it in the history of the African American community in the United States. They can find it in, you can find it almost anywhere, right? On the right, though, we tend to think more civilization versus barbarism. That's sort of our paradigm.
Tell me more about that. What you mean?
So on the right, we're conservatives. What does it mean to be a conservative? It means if I'm going to try and solve a problem, big problem or little problem, I'm going to begin where my ancestors left off. Why? Because we have the conviction that the reason a particular practice, belief, conviction exists is because it, quote unquote, worked for prior generations. There is some wisdom there that we can benefit from, that our society can benefit from. And that's where we start, right? Inherent in that sort of presumption and that intuition is we prefer order. We prefer a sort of civilized existence. We have come a certain distance from barbarism, right? And we don't want to go back to that. That's the sort of ethos of what it means to be a conservative, right? So when I say civilization versus barbarism, that's kind of what I'm talking about, right? Okay. The left has taken a particular kind of abstract ideological conviction, its right to defend the oppressor, the oppressed against the oppressor, and they have made it a totalizing claim. And I don't think it can sustain the kind of totalizing claim that they try and laden it with, which is why you get someone who, like Zohran Mamdani, for example. I've mentioned this on the campaign trail, right? Supposedly he's committed Muslim, wants to usher in the globalize the intifada or whatever he says. And he's a radical progressive on every issue, including gender and sexuality, right? Islam has some pretty specific things to say about, the sort of gender issues that he claims he's sort of a champion of, right? So why is it that these two things, how is it that they can exist in the same place? Is it because they themselves are consistent somehow? No, I don't think so. We can sort of go into it, but I think the common thread through the left is their hatreds, it's not their loves. So they hate America, they hate what America has stood for, they hate people who support President Trump. That's the orienting principle for the left. And so, okay, if Islam hates the West, if Islam hates President Trump, I'll use that. If the radical transgender movement hates America, hates President Trump, I'll use that. And we'll just put them all in the same bucket and we'll point them all at the same enemy.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, okay, so you graduate law school.
Yes, I did.
How liberal was Stanford?
Oh, man. Ooh. It was impossibly leftist. That was a great experience for me because it's the first time, coming from a little dusty West Texas town, you take people at their word. You think people are operating in good faith. Yeah. So when, the leftists, when NPR says, well, we have the same ends, we just have different ideas about how to get there. Okay. 2016 revealed that to be false, actually. And the response, not so much from my peers, but from the administration at Stanford Law School, was one of the things that first clued me to the fact that, there is actually a cold civil war going on here, and these people want to destroy me. They want to destroy the things about my country that I love. They want to destroy people that share my convictions.
You were feeling that all back then?
Oh, absolutely.
What years were you at Stanford?
2015 to 2018. So 16 was right in the middle.
Yeah.
And to give you a sense of how that went down, first of all, the Schadenfreude on election night was just incredible. You talk about one of the highlights.
Did you hear some tears through the windows?
Listen to this, okay? So my administration, they set up this law school administration. They set up a quote unquote collective sigh of relief for the Wednesday after Election Day, okay? Now, we don't know who's going to win here. We're just all going to breathe a collective sigh of relief that this contentious presidential election is finally over.
And it's over. Either way.
Either way, right? So the girls are all out in Crocker Garden, which is our it's like an outdoor space at the law school, and they're all taking pictures in their pantsuits, and everybody's getting ready for what they think is an inevitable Clinton victory. And then what happened. And it was a beautiful and glorious thing that happened.
It was crazy. I remember it was so late, but I set my alarm to wake up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And I woke up my wife. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I know. And the next day, the collective sigh of relief was a crying. Turned into a crying.
There was no relief.
No, none at all. I mean, they were wrecked.
Yeah.
And I struggle with this because I don't, it's like, Lord, keep me from vice, but this feels really good right now. I love it when my enemies are in tears. And one of my professors stood up during this, everybody's grieving, and says, this feels like 9/11. And I was like, no, I'm done with y'all. I'm done with y'all. There's 3,000 innocent Americans dead. Mm-hmm. And you lost an election. Whatever the twisted ideology that has brought you to this point, I have no patience for it. And the only correct response is to try and destroy it. Not to just try and destroy the people, but the ideology that is motivating them and that has completely infected their brains. And this professor, she was one of my professors my first year of law school, my first semester of law school. And you develop somewhat of a special relationship with those profs because that's when you take kind of the core classes. And at Stanford, you may know this, we're on terms. So we have 3 terms per academic year, not 2 semesters. Okay. And for first years, the first term is actually extended by a month. So because you're taking these core courses. So we come on a month early, we're the only ones there. You develop a kind of relationship. She was my favorite first year prof. She was a practicing Jew who took her faith seriously. We had gotten into some serious conversations about objective morality and things like this. And she was a very intelligent, thoughtful person. And when she said that, that was okay, my eyes are opened to what this is. And so a lot of my professional and personal life has actually been in this sort of cultural confrontation space, in part because of this realization that, as many others have said, and I agree, we are in a cold civil war with the left that wants to destroy us.
Mm-hmm. Did you take to law right away? You loved it?
I had sensed a calling to public life and public service. So when we decided we wanted to get out of the military so that we could move back home and our kids could be close to grandparents, I knew that public service and sort of public engagement was something I should be preparing for. And so the law was a way to sharpen my skills at oral and written persuasion. And there were things about it that I liked, and things about it that I found somewhat silly. But I did well. I mean, and had a successful practice with the firm that I was with in downtown Dallas, which
is litigation.
Yeah, I was in the litigation department.
Do you like that?
I love it, actually. I like making the right people uncomfortable. I like exposing people for
when you can say it clearly.
Yeah. It's sort of
gotta be a great feeling.
It's like no. You are going to admit that this thing is true that you really don't want to admit because it doesn't serve your interest. I do get a certain pleasure from that.
Absolutely.
And
and it's not easy.
It's not. It's very hard. It's very hard to. It is very hard to be a good litigator, particularly on your feet, right? So difficult to be a good writer, difficult to take a good deposition, give a good cross-examination, give a good direct examination. It's not easy. It takes a certain amount of, magic or something. But what I describe it as there have been a couple of times in my professional career I'm on my feet in the courtroom or something, and it just kind of takes over. And some people describe it as like flow or something, right? And I kind of wake up when it's over, and I'm like, man, that felt really good. I hope it went really well because I can't remember what happened. It just kind of comes.
That's cool. So that's how you know you're doing the right thing.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I think that's how you know that you're walking out in the vocation the Lord has fitted you for. Yes.
That's awesome. Tell me what kind of cases you try now, because I'll read that you consider yourself a constitutional lawyer.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you, a constitutional lawyer?
So I say that to clue people to the fact that a lot of the cases that my law partner and I have touch on fundamental sort of constitutional issues. So, for example, Alliance Defending Freedom is a great religious liberty law firm here in the States. They defended Jack Phillips, the baker out of Colorado that's been sued umpteen million times by the left, right? We will often write amicus briefs for the Supreme Court in support of.
What does that mean?
So an amicus brief, amici is like a friend. So an amicus is a friend of the court, and sometimes there are issues that are tangential to whatever issue is presented to the court that it would be helpful to have briefing on. And so you'll submit an amicus brief, which is an explanation of some issue that maybe isn't going to be contained or addressed directly in the briefing on the issue itself that's submitted by the parties to the litigation. So, for example, there was a Christian counselor out of the state of Washington. That state a couple years ago passed a law that any counselor who did not affirm gender dysphoria in a minor that came for counseling would be at risk of losing his or her license and receive a $5,000 fine for every instance in which that kind of counseling happened. So what I was doing, we filed an amicus brief on behalf of some medical groups, and the goal of the brief was to point out that just basically, and to put it crassly, just because somebody's wearing a white lab coat doesn't mean you can trust them.
Right. I think we all learned that.
Yes, there have been many times.
I would have never thought that before 2020.
Many people don't.
Ever.
Many people don't. And so our job was to go back and to point out all the ways in which the formal official position of many medical groups, some of whom are well respected today, has been absolutely contrary to the evidence, absolutely harmful to the people who receive treatment based on that evidence and advice. And some of the more crass and craven aspects of the medical community. So, I think the AMA, for example, a lot of their revenue came through the American Medical Association. I think a lot of their revenue came through magazines that they would sort of publish, and people would buy ads in them. And one of the most prominent ads, in the sort of 40s, 50s, 60s, was doctors lighting it up and smoking. Right?
I was just talking to my dad about that.
Yeah.
He was in the Air Force.
Okay.
And this was in the late 50s. And they were like, you need to start smoking right away. Yeah. and he had a friend that was like, I think this smoking is not so good for you. I'm just feeling that way.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
And for so long they kept saying, no, it's good for you.
Yeah.
Helps calm the nerves. And
Slows your heart rate.
At some point those tobacco companies were like, yeah, it's bad for you. But that's just crazy. Doctors would say, well, have you thought about smoking? My granddad told me that.
Yeah. Your dad probably did this. So back when the Air Force's PT standards were different, the main portion of the PT test was basically measuring your heart rate on a bike.
Oh, yeah.
So guys, they'd line it up, and then they go take the PT test.
Let me get ready for my...
Decrease their heart rate. Yeah.
And so...
so anyway, that's an amicus brief.
Okay.
The kind of cases that we bring, I mean, we do, so we're suing the city and county of San Francisco. They fired a bunch of first responders for refusing to get the vaccine. So we brought a Title VII religious liberty and ADA claims in that case. We're suing San Antonio. A couple of years ago, the city council started trying to put money into a fund that would have been given to nonprofits for the sole purpose of taking young women from Bexar County to Albuquerque to get them abortions. We are suing the World Federation of Advertisers and a number of corporations on behalf of X and Rumble for anti-competitive practices, throttling ad revenue for those platforms. So that gives you a sense of the kind of cases that we bring.
You go after small guys. Now, from an outsider view, if I'm thinking, okay, you're trying something in San Francisco.
Yeah.
My thought is you don't have a shot because the jury's going to be liberal as hell, and there's no way they're going to.
Well,
how much truth is there to that?
Yeah, it's really important to choose your jurisdiction, both because of the jury pool you're going to get and because of the judges that you're likely to draw.
Because do you feel like no matter what I prove, no matter what I say or what I do, it's a very high chance that I'll lose?
Well, for the kind of cases, for the vax cases, for example, there have been very favorable rulings. So there were 6 plaintiffs who sued the Bay Area Transit Authority for firing them for not getting the COVID vax, and they were each awarded 7 figures.
Okay, so that was in
by a local jury in San Francisco.
Okay.
Right? Favorable ruling out of Detroit on this issue. So, you know, I'll say this: the jury is one of the last institutions that average Americans can appeal to as a source of common sense and common sense governance. And so even if, and the judge in the San Francisco case was totally in the bag for the bad guys. I mean, completely in the bag for the Bay Area Transit Authority. And yet that jury came back and said, no, what y'all did was wrong.
Wow,
right? Now, you know, and good lawyering will, you know, increase the likelihood of that. So the lead plaintiff in that case was a sweet, elderly African-American woman, devout Christian, who served her community and who worked totally remotely.
Wow.
And so they fired her for not getting the vaccine when she sat 40 miles away from the nearest other employee of the Bay Area Transit Authority, right?
Wow.
So, you know, there are certain, when you have, you know, being a good lawyer requires thinking through strategically, okay, what can I control in this situation? And how are we going to get this lineup to give our clients the best shot at winning? And you can do that well even in really tough spots.
Now, let's move ahead to you deciding, I'm going to run for something.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
Okay, a couple years ago, Texas Senate. That was was that going to be
right.
if you'd have won, that'd have been the first office you'd ever held?
Well, I was a precinct chair
for
the party in 2020. So I was a precinct chair in 1043 in Dallas.
Okay.
But yes,
that's still a jump.
Oh yeah, it's still
now, what
a jump.
did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about politics?
Yeah. What I learned about myself, what I learned about politics through that race.
Probably a lot.
So when that race was over, I sat down and I wrote out, I don't know, 35 or 40 lessons learned. Hey, this is when I do this again, this is how I'm going to do it.
Did it sting? Did you feel?
Oh yeah, I mean, because you have to give 110% every day, all day, no matter what, and it is all consuming. It takes over. And,
takes from your family.
Takes from your family,
job.
Absolutely, from everything. Right, my law partner. I mean, it's serious work
He was
for him.
Hello, you come to work?
Yeah, that's right. Right. So, I would say the thing that I learned the most is there are most of this job is things you can't control, and so it is an act of faith to engage. Now, you got to do your homework, get a good sense of the bones of the race, right? How's the terrain laying? Is it favorable to me or not? And there are a lot of things you can control, and you do that. You know, you're faithful and diligent every day. Put lead on target. Control what you can control. Be disciplined, right? Be faithful to your calling in that way. But then you just got to let it go.
Was that something you were kind of learning along the way?
Absolutely.
If I don't let this go, it's going to kill me.
Because my personality is like, you know, I mean, I'm controlling everything, right? I'm an engineer.
You probably want to,
and a
if
lawyer.
anybody says anything, your mind is like, how can I sue them? How can I take them down? And if you did that, then there goes the whole campaign.
That's right.
You got to let it.
I just got to let it go, you know. And the thing about persuasion, right? The thing about persuading people is there's an art to it. It's a mystery, right? Because we are brains. Arguments matter, but not the only thing that matter, you know?
Yeah.
And I like that. And I think one of the things that makes our campaign as strong as it is I think there's a certain intuitive authenticity to who I am as a guy, who our team is, you know? And there's just something that's like average people who are that way themselves are just kind of, they feel a commonality with that. And so I don't mean it's a bad thing. I don't want us to be brains on a stick. I'm grateful that there's more to us as humans than that, right? But for somebody who, you know, is used to programming zeros and ones and like lining up all the elements of a cause of action and nailing everything to the wall, you know, you have to just step back and be like, okay, Lord, I'm going to do everything I can. And then there's some people that just, for whatever reason, they just hate me. They don't like me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you gotten thick skinned with that?
Yeah, I think I'm all right. I
couldn't do that. I wouldn't sleep for a week if somebody said.
Yeah.
But you know who you are.
Yes.
You know what you stand for.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's what I guess you lean on when you hear or read things.
Yeah, I think the more comfortable you are with your own convictions, the less criticism gets under your skin. And having gone to Stanford Law School and defended a lot of my ideas there, and being an attorney and somebody who's been engaged and thought through a lot of the issues that are coming up in the campaign, because I've testified on bills related to them down in Austin, or, litigated the issues myself, right?
I guess if you've kind of gone up against the military, not a lot people can say to
there you go. That's it too, right? I mean, I got the formal letter of reprimand that was like, you exhibited conduct unbecoming
I bet that
officer.
just killed you when you saw that.
Man, and I was like, well,
I mean,
it did, but at the same time, like, so that speech that I gave, right? My muse was Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and the thesis of the speech was, don't participate in conduct or language that you know is dishonest. I used as my theme Solzhenitsyn's quip from A Candle in the Wind, let the lie come, but not through me. And the idea was, okay, maybe the left in its radical, crazy ideology and its deceitful ideology ultimately wins, but don't participate in the lie. Let the lie come, but not through me, okay? That was one of the phrases that they highlighted and quoted that I said that showed poor judgment.
Wow. And that should be used as a defense.
It just proved to me
Yeah.
that what I was saying was absolutely true.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. I want to read something you recently said. I want to kind of get into some of these topics.
Sure.
This is, I think you were talking about immigration, but you said the most important issue facing us today as a nation is, what does it mean to be an American?
Yes.
It's immigration and visa reform.
Yes.
Why do you think this is so important to us? Because my first thought is like, yeah, it's huge, but what about people who aren't eating and this and that? I feel like we're getting inundated with ICE and this and that, and it's immigration. Tell me why that's the most important thing that we've got. I mean, I know the media is certainly treating it like that, but you believe it to be true.
I believe it to be very true.
And why do you?
Yeah. The thing that all public policy should be oriented toward is the restoration and reinvigoration of the American family. The average American family. Our country is great because we are a place where ordinary people have been able to lead dignified lives in an uncommon way, a way uncommon to history. Why have they been able to do that? I would say it is because of the cohesion that they have had with their fellow men. Okay? So when a community has the same common set of loves, they share the same formation, their lives together become ordered, dynamic, fruitful, pleasant, civilized. When the formation is different, when there is, and I'm going to use this word specifically, when there is diversity of formation, differences and conflicts in formation, Group A is taught to love something that Group B is taught to hate, then average life becomes very difficult and expensive. And the only solution is for rich people to buffer themselves from the chaos that's created in common spaces, and for those who don't have the resources to buffer themselves to simply suffer the consequences. So our public schools are breaking down today. The public classroom is a war zone. Why? Because the students in it come from all kinds of different ideological perspectives and convictions, and some of them hate American heritage. And the system has been set up to manufacture that hatred in them. And so when I say immigration, visa reform is the most important issue facing our nation, it's because right now it does not prioritize national cohesion, which it should. In his most recent national security strategy, the president said, we basically will not have a strong country again until, quote, we have more traditional families raising healthy children. That set of common loves and common formation is the key to national prosperity for average people. That's why I think immigration and visa reform is so important and is the key issue facing our time.
Deeper.
Very deep.
And then we're talking about
yes.
on the
yes. And you can go, I mean, if you want to go super meta on this, right? Aristotle said the strength of the bond between two friends is directly related to the strength of the love they have for what he called a transcendent third. Something above them, maybe an idea, God, that they both are ordered to. And as they are drawn closer to that thing, you'll notice they necessarily get closer together. And the strength of the love they have for that thing is equal to the strength they have for each other. Right now in America, we do not have common loves anymore. We don't love the same things. And in fact, the left is trying to get us to hate things that we have for generations loved, right? That causes a slow motion cultural and civilizational suicide that we're all experiencing. And conservatives are raising the alarm. They're screaming for fighters because they can sense this, but they don't quite know what to do about it, I think because the problem is so deep. The president rightly points to immigration as one of the key issues. I think education is the other one, right? Because conservatives, we have more children than liberals do, right? And our children, by and large, they maintain their conservative convictions. Liberal children maintain their liberal convictions. So how does the left keep up with us? How do they maintain parity? Immigration and brainwashing our children, children of conservatives, right? So that's sort of a hint at or a way to sort of begin talking about why I think this immigration issue is so important.
When I say the word amnesty,
Yes.
this is really somewhere where I, in theory, and when I think it through, coming into this country is illegal. You have broken the law.
Correct.
You built a family. Sorry that you did that. It was against the law. You built a family on something illegal.
Sure.
But then I think about my buddies who are illegal. And I love them and their friends and I love their families.
Yes.
And the thought of like someone saying, you got to take it all back home. We're sorry. I know you've lived here 20 years.
Sure.
That's rough for me as I try to make sense of that. Because textbook and writing is one thing, but when you're talking to your friend and his family and the little kid you saw born, what do we do?
Yeah.
And talk about that word amnesty.
Sure.
Too, with that.
I think amnesty is. I think it's a cancer that leads to continued societal breakdown because it creates incentives that say to the rest of the world, as long as you can just get a toe on our soil, you can stay. That is the wrong incentive structure to create for a cultural civilization that you want to be strong and you want to last. And so the question is, are you going to prefer the children of Americans or are you going to prefer the children of foreigners? I would prefer to be able to serve both. That's not the world that I live in, unfortunately. It is the obligation of every government to prioritize and protect its citizens and their way of life. In the first instance, our obligation is to Americans, to their families, to their children. And I have no problem insisting on that. Is it the end of the world if you and your family have to go back to your country of origin? No, I don't see that as an inherent injustice.
It's interesting because we kind of hear that it is the end of the world.
Yeah,
why is it?
Ultimately, and we can talk about whether or not there are actually large groups of people that have been here for 20, 30, 40 years that are getting deported. That's a separate conversation, but let's just assume that they are. Okay? You and your family now have to go to your country of origin back there, and you haven't been there for 40 years.
But I'm thinking of a 15-year-old boy who's lived here, who was born here. That would be kind of horrifying. We're moving you to Mexico. Oh, you don't speak Spanish? Sorry. That's rough, you know.
I am not saying that a family moving from one country to another country, a country that they don't have a whole lot of familiarity with, is not difficult. But there is nothing inherently immoral about requiring that.
Right. It's the law.
And that is my perspective. Is look, as a Christian, I don't make means ends arguments. Okay, so if something is inherently immoral, I can't do it. If it's inherently unconstitutional, I can't do it. But if it's within the realm of prudence, it's on the table.
Yeah.
And you come at me with a sob story about a family unit that has to go to another country. And I say, yeah, that's difficult. There have been a lot of things that have been difficult in my life. Sure. Is it the worst thing in the world? Is it the end of the world? I'm not here to make light of how difficult that would be, but I am here to say the responsibility of the American government is to protect the American people and our way of life.
And to follow the law.
Correct, yes.
Maybe if the law is going to be changed, okay, but right now that's not the law, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, so it's tough, but it is the law. And there's a lot of things that are tough that go along with the law.
Sure,
too.
sure. And again, we can talk about the sort of people that ICE is currently targeting, right? I mean, nobody disagrees that Joe Biden and his administration allowed millions and millions of illegal immigrants to come into this country, many of whom are rabid criminals who are absolutely disrupting our culture and society. And even for those, I mean, just think about the burden on public resources. Texas schools are required to educate non-citizen children. That single fact alone and the burden created by that alone is, you know, in a system that was already overburdened and ineffective, it's now basically just like chaos.
Yeah, yeah. I often think about the clip of Obama that's been making the rounds, which is just crazy. You know, and I like when they go to the campuses and they say it as if Trump said it, but it was really Obama. And then the look on their faces when they realize it.
This administration, the Bush administration, has done nothing to control the problem that we have. We've had 5 million undocumented workers come over the borders since George Bush took office. It has become an extraordinary problem. And the reason the American people are concerned is because they are seeing their own economic position slip away.
Because, you know, at the end of the day, it is the law,
Yes.
and that is what the people we elect.
Yes.
You know, where does it end? Okay, that's one law that's broken. We're going to forgive it all. Okay, what's the next law you're going to forgive?
Sure. Yes.
You're going to forgive people that don't pay their taxes?
Sure.
Or where does it stop? You know,
Yeah.
so I totally get that too. It's multi-layered,
Yeah.
in a sense, but then in another sense, the law is not multi-layered. It's pretty straightforward.
Sure. Yeah. And the left often tries to use they'll often try and use sort of our moral convictions, our own morality against us to cause us to unilaterally disarm and lay down and not use political power, right? And I think the new right and the president's sort of America First agenda is not just about policy, but it's also about a relationship to power. How do you understand the appropriate relationship to power? And the previous GOP, you know, the philosophy was, well, if we exercise moderation and restraint, then the independents and the moderates will flock to our banner because they'll be impressed by our, you know, self-control, yada, yada, yada. We'll win elections from here to eternity, and it'll be rainbows and puppy dogs for everybody. And of course, that's not what happened. You just get what the left wants rammed down your throat at a slightly slower pace. And so the president has come and said, no, we got this power, we're going to use it. We're going to use it for policies that we know are good for our communities, and we're not going to buy into the argument that, oh, maybe the left is going to do this to us in the future, because the reality is either the left has already done it to you, is doing it to you, or will do it to you at their first opportunity. And so I'm grateful for that, and I very much align with that. You know, I think one of the reasons that he's endorsed us in the race is he trusts us. He trusts me to take that perspective when the difficult fights come in Congress, to say, I'm not going to be manipulated by a left who tries to use my Christian faith, for example, against me, right? When I've never seen you in church, Mr. Journo, right, who's trying to tell me that you are somehow now familiar with my obligations as a Christian to, quote unquote, the foreigner and the stranger, to take one example that comes up frequently. And so I think that relationship to power is also an important part of the America First agenda.
That is you said that word trust, Trump trusting you.
Yeah.
It's a lot of trust on your shoulders. Like there is an expectation there, you know.
Yeah.
And obviously he's followed you and knows what you believe in, and that's huge, you know.
I think one of the reasons that our campaign has been so attractive to people is that you don't actually have to take me at my word for most of what I say, because I have demonstrated the resolve that I'm telling you is required now, previously in any number of ways. And I think that's helpful. I mean, just standing up to the vaccine in the military is something people point to over and over again, right?
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of immigration, I was talking to one of my camera guys. He's a high schooler, Caden, and we were talking about some, some Muslim immigration and how that all fits in. But he's got a question for you. So we're going to get you a question from a high schooler.
Great.
Here. We're a very smart high schooler. So.
I would like to think so, yes. I don't know if it's so much more of a question, more of just a kind of statement, more of your thought process in mind. But of course, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think Governor Abbott banned Sharia law in the state of Texas, and that was definitely more comforting, because you grow up hearing about 9/11 and watching those documentaries and being like, these people hate us, which they do. They do, and it's just now it's concerning here just up the road in Wiley. There's students or being passed out papers about Muslims and Sharia law. And of course, that city, can't name off the top of my head, but it was, I think it was around the Austin area, where it was a city trying to be built completely off Sharia law. That's concerning. That's in a sense scary, because you know a large majority of those people hate you. They hate your Christian values. They hate that you're American. They hate the flag that you stand for.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to just kind of get your thought process and just what can we do as Americans and as leaders to secure our American freedom and prevent something catastrophic from happening.
Yeah.
Good question from a young person.
That's a great question. It goes back to the key issue that I think we're facing today. So there are a number of responses that we will need to develop and have to this problem. Already, there is a push at the federal level to ban Sharia law. Congressman Keith Sell founded the Sharia Free Caucus. That caucus is growing quickly. I am committed to be a member of that caucus. I'm grateful for Congressman Self's advice. He's endorsed us in the race and got behind us. The Freedom Caucus, the House Freedom Caucus, has as one of their policy positions that we should ban Sharia law across the country. I'm grateful to have been endorsed by that caucus and will be a member of it and will be a part of the team that's pushing for that. That's not going to solve the problem, though. And I think recognizing that there is an aggressive militant strain well, let me go back to first principles, which is the reason immigration, I think, is the key issue of our time is because national cohesion is very much bound up with our immigration policy and the number of people who come here that not only don't have the same formation we have, but don't have the same gratitude and loves that we have for this country, right? That's a key part of what I would consider to be a requirement for anyone who wants to come. You have to share our convictions and values about certain things. You have to be grateful for this country. You have to want to be a part of it. Christianity has been a gift to the world, and the West has been the place where Christianity has arisen and blossomed. One of the reasons it's such a gift is because inherent in the Christian faith is the idea of individual human dignity. So even if you don't share my faith or my convictions, as a Christian, I'm obligated to treat you as an image bearer of God, which you are. That means, for example, that if I engage in business negotiations with you and we engage in a contract, I'm supposed to honor my word to you. Now that's not the same conviction that other ideologies and religions have. In fact, some religions think that it's my religious obligation to take advantage of the infidel as much as I can. Mm-hmm. Islam is one of those religions. And so when certain faiths have convictions that are incompatible with the American spirit and American citizenship, we are absolutely within our rights to push back. One of the issues that comes up is we as conservatives have had to use religious liberty as a shield for blocking many of the left's aggressive approaches, right? So they go after our kids in school, and somehow now parental rights has to become a religious exercise, right, claim. And that will often be presented as, well, this is a religion, these are faiths, therefore they should be able to practice according to their own lights. And part of that narrative that we as conservatives have to start changing is that America was founded on religious liberty. That's not actually true, right? So the Pilgrims didn't come over so that the Hindus could worship according to their own lights. Right? The Mayflower Compact says explicitly, we came over, why? To advance the kingdom of Christ. Christopher Columbus set sail, why? To advance the kingdom of Christ. Now, does that mean you have to be a Christian in order to be an American? No, not at all. Because inherent in our Christian faith is a recognition of the dignity of those who don't share our faith. But you do have to share that conviction that each person has human dignity. And the thing about Sharia law, right? I mean, just look at the way they treat young girls, right? Genital mutilation, to take one example. Marriage between older men and younger girls, right? This is simply incompatible with our way of life. And if you want to exist and live under a regime like that, you need to go somewhere else. It doesn't have a place here. So that's how I think about this issue, and there's a lot of work to be done. That's how I think about it.
Thank you.
Let me lead this right into a little snippet I've got of Tallarico. Is that how you say
Oh,
it?
sure, yeah.
The new golden boy for the left, I think. I find this interesting. So from what I understand, he is a very well-studied Christian doctrine You know, that's kind of what he's running on, kind of in the middle. I make sense, you know.
Yes.
I saw this morning, and I wanted to just get your take on it. So this
Okay.
is a short snippet.
I believe the separation of church and state is sacred. I think a nation with one supreme religion is not just un-American. I also think it's un-Christian, given how Jesus taught about religious supremacy. And so I think I have a special moral responsibility to combat Christian nationalism wherever I see it.
Christian nationalism, and to combat it. I'm going to let you go off on that. Let me hear what you have to say.
You know, I listen to this guy talk, and I feel kind of like a mosquito in a nudist colony. Man, I don't know where to start with this.
And am I correct? He says he is a Christian, and that's a big part of his life.
Yeah. He says that, and you know, I mean, maybe he does have a certain humility before the Lord, and I don't want to question that. But his theology is absolutely backward, upside down, and bonkers. Right? I mean, this is the same guy I think that says said the Annunciation was proof that like the Scriptures support abortion or something like that. I mean, so this particular deal, right? The separation of church and state is sacred. I mean, I so fundamentally disagree both in terms of sort of philosophical as well as historical, right? So, I mean, your listeners probably know this is a one-off comment from Jefferson in a letter to the Danbury Baptist thanking them for a big block of cheese that they basically sent our way. And so, you know, not in the Constitution. At the time of our founding, every colony except Rhode Island had an established church. So the idea that the Constitution or the Declaration or fundamentally require a separation is silly. Let's see. What was the last? There was something about the last. Oh, my job as a Christian is to sort of oppose Christian nationalism and sort of supremacy of religion is against Jesus' teaching. Well, look, I'm a Christian. Why? Because I think it's true, and I think it's truer than all the other ones. And if I didn't think that, I wouldn't be a Christian. I certainly wouldn't bring my children up in it. I mean, if this guy thinks that there are other religions that are equally as true as Christianity or more true than Christianity, then like, what are you doing being a Christian? Why are you pushing Christianity, right? This is an example, I consider this to be an example of using the faith for political ends, which is ultimately blasphemous in my opinion. The faith is not intended to get James Talrico elected. And, you know, I'm not going to pretend to sort of know what's going on in this guy's heart. I don't want to do that. But the things that he says, it's sort of like a knockoff prof at like a second tier theological school. How do you get cited? How do you increase your brand? Is you say controversial stuff, right? You say heretical stuff, and that's how other people are going to cite you, right? And then you sort of juices your own reputation. I mean, that's what he's doing clearly, right? He's saying things that like, no, there's no way that there's no way that the teaching of Jesus suggests that like Jesus himself doesn't think Christianity is the truest religion. Of course he does, right? It's the will of God that all people would come to him through his son Christ. And he's unapologetic about that. The reading, I'm sure he would come up with some, twisted or Frankenstein version of the Gospels to support his claim, but 2,000 years of church history, I'll side with St. Augustine, Thomas Aquinas, St. John over whatever invention this guy's come up with.
You're a reader, huh? Not like your dad.
Well, what I say is don't look too hard, because if you press too hard, you'll find out what and how little I have read. That's the feeling that I have. But there are certain things that have formed me, and that prof, the government prof that I mentioned,
At Stanford?
Yeah.
Oh,
no. At
Yes,
University of Texas. His name's Jay Budashevsky, by the way. But he taught me that really it's better to read less, but to read it over and over again than to read more. And so he would actually, the way he would teach is he would give us an assignment, and he would say, my expectation is that you will read this 3 times out loud to yourself. And we would come into class, and he would give us a quiz, and the quiz would be, he would take a sentence from the reading, and he would leave a word or two out. And he would say, fill in the blank. And you know what's shocking? You can do that, actually. And it's not that hard if you just read it 3 times out loud. And that also gives you a certain facility with the material and an understanding that is not common. So I wouldn't say I'm particularly well read, But the things that I have read, I think I have probably read a little more closely.
They're very important to you, and you kind of.
Yeah, they are.
Let me ask you two questions where we're kind of seeing this intersection of religion and government. First, let's say something was coming to you to vote on, a bill or something, and the bill said it was for the right to read the Bible every morning in a public school.
Okay.
But we would never allow anything other than the Bible to be read. No, nothing from the Quran.
Okay.
Only the Bible.
Okay.
How would you, on a vote for our country?
Yeah.
How would you vote? For that?
Yes. Sure. Yeah. No question.
What about those that say that's unconstitutional?
I
mean, you can see that point, or that.
Sure. Yeah.
Explain that gap there.
Yeah. So, right, the idea. So people have this conviction that if there's a right in the Constitution, it must be an absolute or universal right to free speech, for example.
Yeah, that's kind of we are definitely. That's what we hear from the beginning. Yeah.
But even the Supreme Court has said there are certain categories of speech which you can't say. Right? And the common one, people know you can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater, right?
But the left's going to use that against us on the Second Amendment.
Well, they're already trying.
Yeah.
This goes back to this. This goes back to this, like, we shouldn't do X because the left will do it to us. I said, no. They either already have, are, or will. You don't have to worry about that.
Yes.
So, we should, as a country, right? I mean, this gets into the whole sort of school choice thing. Not really the call of your question, but our heritage. We are a Christian nation. We are fundamentally a Christian nation.
Do we need to apologize for that?
No, absolutely not. Right? So now there's a whole history. We can get into sort of the role that the Bible has played in American education previously, but for the majority of our history, that is in fact what we did. Right? And the sky didn't fall.
Yeah.
And in fact, we experienced more cohesion and the scriptures also, they are the richest. They're more than literature, but they are the richest gift of literature that we have. Right? I said, I don't come from a polished family, but my parents gave me the Bible and told me to take it seriously. And that is the thing I would point to more than anything else in terms of any academic success that I have had in the degrees that I have or the places I've been. If I could only give one book to Texas school children, to American school children, and tell them to take it seriously, it would be the Bible. Today I can give them almost short of a Playboy, but you know what I can't give them? I can't give them the Bible. That is upside down and backward. Right?
Yes.
We have to get away from this sort of neoliberal conceit that if we set up the correct process and procedure, then people of all faiths, backgrounds, formations can come and coexist peacefully and be a strong nation. That's simply not true. We have to be about the merits of who we are as a people. And that, first and foremost, in my perspective, we are a Christian nation.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, and I love what you're saying. I really do. And you've kind of shifted my mind here as we've talked. But I've had I have a few liberal friends, and I've often said, well, of course, constitutionally, we're not going to read the Bible at school. We're not going to read the Quran at school. And I'm all about that.
Sure.
But you're really challenging that and saying, no, I'm going to say we're going to read the Bible and nothing else, and I'm going to stand behind it. So it's unique to hear you so boldly say that.
Yes.
But as a Christian man myself, how could I argue with you? I don't think I could. It's very unpopular. Very unpopular to say that. You know that.
Sure. Take the pro-life issue. Okay. Now, Roe v. Wade was overturned. Thanks be to God. Planned Parenthood v. Casey. Dobbs. Thanks be to God for Dobbs. Okay. What's happened to abortions in Texas since Dobbs? Have they gone down?
I don't know.
35,000 of them still happen in our state every year. How?
Is that less than previous years?
It's not appreciably less.
Okay.
And certainly it's gone up in other states. Why? Well, it's because the argument conservatives made was the states should decide. We made a procedural argument. The Supreme Court doesn't have the authority or power to make this decision. They shouldn't prevent the states from doing X, Y, or Z. Okay? Notice that's a proceduralist argument. And so when the procedure was returned to the states, many states basically chose to enshrine abortion as a right in their state constitutions. We are struggling now on the pro-life side to come up with a response to, well, you got what you wanted, didn't you? And the short answer is no, because the ultimate objective is stopping the wanton taking of innocent human life. That's what we want to do. It's not happening, even though we have this win at the Supreme Court. Now, I'm not going to say it was an oversight or an error, but notice how the playing field would have been different if instead of making the proceduralist argument against the court's decision as a court, we had said, we're a Christian nation, Christians don't kill their babies in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
It's the kind of argument that has moral persuasion in the public sphere, and it's the kind of argument that's applicable to it's a merits argument, basically.
Mm.
I think as a party, we should prefer merits-based arguments to proceduralist-based arguments. But a lot of times we've hidden behind procedure because we're afraid of the moral content of the argument we're making.
Yeah.
And I think that's wrong.
There's a fear in that.
Yes.
There is.
Yes.
One of the things, as we talk about abortion here, I've never quite understood this. Trump has said he's got an exception, a couple of exceptions to his belief that abortion is wrong. Mm-hmm. Rape, incest, it's going to kill the mother. Mm-hmm. When I logically think through that, I think, okay, if we're going to agree that that's murder to abort a baby, how can we say it's okay to murder? Mm-hmm. And I know this is really, it's easy for me to say, me never having been in that situation, my daughter's never having been in that situation. Yes. But are you following my logic? Yeah. Mr. Trump, President Trump, how can you say you're murdering a baby, but it's okay to murder a baby if the girl is raped? Mm-hmm. You see where I'm going with that? That's never made sense to me. I mean, I totally get it. Mm-hmm. But murder's murder, and we don't allow for that in other situations outside of abortion.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. So a couple of things. First is President Trump has given the pro-life movement everything we've asked for. We asked for judges on the Supreme Court that would overturn Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey. That's what we wanted, and that's what he gave us. Greatest pro-life president of my lifetime. No question. Absolutely. Grateful for that. Number two, this is not an issue that's like, he's primarily focused on a number of issues. This isn't really one of those for him. And he's not the sort of guy that's going to engage in the sort of philosophical kind of back and forth, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. His position is, here's the objective, here's the target, overturn Roe, how do we get there?
Got it.
I'm here to be a foot soldier on that team that's actually moving freight and getting stuff done, 100%. You and I can talk about the sort of merits of a philosophical position that recognizes or doesn't recognize an exception. And I'm on the public record as, I don't think, for example, the baby is the one that we should kill if somebody rapes a young woman. I think the rapist is the one that should be killed, right?
But of course we know the argument against
it's also very, it's unpopular with some people to say that for obvious reasons, because it is a kind of, I mean, having watched my wife go through, pregnancy, like, it is a self-gift in a way that is unmatched. And so, always and everywhere we want to be sensitive to this real decision that a family has whenever this pregnancy comes through something as egregious and terrible as rape. And I'm not here to condemn people or call people out because they have this particular conviction. It's also adoption is a beautiful thing. It's also a difficult thing, right? I mean, can you imagine giving away one of your children? That is hard. Yeah. That is hard. And so, I don't want to pretend away the difficulties of this problem. I think fundamentally we have to be always and everywhere against the wanton taking of innocent human life in whatever form, from conception to natural death. That's my conviction. But we can also be grateful for the wins that we've had of late in the pro-life space, recognize there's lots of work to be done.
So you would not vote for any of those exceptions that President Trump has taken exception to?
I want to move the ball forward in the pro-life space. I want to always be taking ground. And so we should talk about, if you're asking me philosophically, do I agree with those exceptions? I don't.
But where does philosophical not match your vote?
Yeah, so there's you don't have a moral obligation to always vote for a maximalist moral position, right?
Maximalist.
So for example, like take this issue of life, right? So for a long time, especially under Planned Parenthood v. Casey, right? Pro-life conservatives, our conviction was no wanton taking of innocent human life from conception to natural death. Did that mean that we always had to push and could only vote yes on bills that like instantiated that in law? No. There were all kinds of ways in which we were trying to move the ball forward that were less than, right? So we're voting for a bill that would outlaw abortion at 18 weeks, at 12 weeks after conception, right? Does it mean, is it immoral to vote for that? Is it somehow inconsistent with your philosophy? No, it's just, hey, this is our target. How prudentially are we going to get there? And there's no moral obligation for me to vote only for the maximalist position that's completely consistent with my convictions.
Or we don't get anywhere.
Yeah, that's what I meant by that.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because if you're too hardcore, you're completely ineffective. You're not making changes in the direction we need to go.
Sure. Yeah. You can say it that way. Yes.
Yeah. And secondly, on that, what I'm calling that intersection of religion and politics, it's gotten real popular for a lot of these megachurch pastors who are doing podcasts or the little snippets that get attention and views to suddenly shift into, let's talk about ICE. Let's talk about Billie Eilish and what she said. How do you feel about that? Is that the place of a pastor? And many would say absolutely it is. Yeah. But what about folks that may be Democrats that go to that church? And a pastor, in my view, his job is to teach us the Bible and how did Jesus live. And I see the argument like, well, I can't do that. But do they need to go there? What's your thought? And do you see that as a trend that I see as well? Where they used to stay clear and now it's,
I see pastors addressing these issues more, usually from what I would consider to be a kind of mushy-headed, emotional, therapeutic, leftist approach, unfortunately.
They're being safe.
Right. There are some who don't, I think, some who come at it from the other perspective. I, for one, am all for it. I think the job of a pastor is to declare the sovereignty of Christ over all of life, politics and culture included. And so there is nothing that should be off the table for a pastor who, given his responsibility before God to shepherd his flock, seems, okay, this is an issue that my congregation is struggling with. They need to hear and understand clear biblical truth about this. What is God's character as to this particular issue? And it's his job to declare it. And I don't think they should run away from that. Now, there are plenty of pastors, James Talrico being one, I think they're just out to lunch. And James says, let not many of you become teachers, knowing that we shall receive a stricter judgment. Right? I don't want to be standing next to James Talrico on Judgment Day, I will tell you that. Now, I'm going to stand up and take my licks too, right?
Yeah,
I'm not saying I'm perfect. We all will, right?
But he's got such a voice and a platform.
And the motivation behind what he's doing, which again I think is to generate controversy and to generate attention by saying controversial things.
We're talking about it.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that is seeking the praise of men and using the Lord and His Word to do it, and that is a dangerous thing. And that doesn't mean, again, obviously you and I'm quoting Scripture and talking about the Bible, and I'm a politician, or maybe worse, a wannabe politician at this point, since I'm just a candidate, right? I'm not saying that I want more of the faith in open discussion in our public square. That's not what I'm saying. But you have to do it in a way that is faithful to your own understanding and convictions. Yeah. And I suspect that there is a certain kind of ulterior motive that those who say controversial things, which are clearly against the teaching that all Christians basically until 2020 believed, that orienting more people toward God and increasing His glory is probably not their goal.
What I'm hearing from you, and I'm finding it refreshing, is I'm not scared and I'm not going to apologize. I'm going to vote as I believe, as Christ would want me to vote. And I'm through apologizing and tiptoeing and being careful.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's just it's just very black and white. Like I'm seeing that from you of like, if this is against my Christianity, that's going to come first and foremost. And I know not in all ways, but what I'm loving is that you're like, I'm not going to apologize. And I feel like as conservatives, we may have been apologizing for too much for too long.
Mm-hmm. That is certainly true. I absolutely agree with that. I've said this before. Part of the America First movement, the new sort of right, the new politicians that are coming up recognize that political power is won in order to be exercised for the good of your communities. Mm-hmm. And refraining from using that power because you're afraid the left is going to use it against you.
Yeah.
Like, you really think this time Lucy's going to let Charlie Brown kick the football? I mean, how many times you got to fall on your rear end before you figure this out, bro?
Before you know.
And so, at the same time, right, like there's a prudential aspect to this fight, which is to say, even the church has recognized in her formal teachings that, just because there is a certain morality that's required by Christianity, that doesn't necessarily mean that we codify it in law, right? Mm-hmm. So the Christian is held to a standard. It's a very high standard. It's the standard of Christ. Even the church has recognized that's not necessarily the standard that you want to put into law, right? For prudential reasons, right? It's just some acts that are required of us by Christ are internal and only we know about them, right? And there's no way the state could even get at the data it would need to determine whether or not we have lived up to that morality. So I do want to qualify it with that and say, just because Christianity requires something, it's not Jace Yarbrough's conviction that thing should be written into law. Mm-hmm. It is the case that Christ and his teachings are the orienting principle of my life. And those teachings have something to say about all aspects of life, including how to govern well and what the proper scope and role of government is.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So I want to talk about this race.
Oh, sure,
In my mind, politics is somewhat like a sport. Mm-hmm. It's such an interesting game. It's a game.
Yes.
I was going to ask you, who is your if we're talking sports, who's your main competition here?
Yeah, well, there are 9 folks in the race.
I know, it got a little crowded when they opened up that new district.
Yeah, it got a little crowded. Yep.
You open up a district and
everybody comes in, man. There's a covey of us, that's true. Some people, point to a couple of guys to say, oh, these were sort of the front runners, right? I mean, one of my opponents ran for president last cycle, and, my conviction was he's probably going to win if we didn't get in the race. Mm-hmm. A lot of people had that conviction. So,
Would you vote for him if you weren't running?
No.
Do you want to say why?
I think the reason that we
can say his name, right?
Well, I'll let you say his name. I don't want to throw darts. I mean, the problem, the worst offenders in our country, in my opinion, are weak-kneed Republicans who don't have the conviction to stand up and say, no.
We were just discussing
this is the vision that we have, and this is the direction we're going, and we're going to use the power the people have given us to go there, right? I mean, our mascot, right, was like, before, the previous mascot was like John McCain. What's so great about John McCain? Well, he was so good at losing to Barack Obama. He just did it so well. Mm-hmm. Look, man, I'm done with that.
Very graceful.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm done, bro. Like, they want men beating up women in girls' sports. Mm-hmm. They want to sterilize my children without my knowledge. They want to prevent me from having grandchildren so that I can't pass on my values and my way of life to them.
And they're doing a really good job at making many people shift their ideas, especially young people. And that is what is scary.
Yes, because they've captured the schools.
So are you saying you're finding him being a weak-kneed Republican?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. On the issue of immigration, for example. I mean, running for president on the Dignity Act, which is basically at least permanent residency for those who came here illegally.
And this is Binkley we're discussing.
That's right, yeah. And I just got no patience for that, all right? And if that's the version of republicanism that you want, and you're a big fan of Mitt Romney and that type, like go with God, like clearly your option, right? I'm not that guy. Mm-hmm. If you want somebody that said, nope, this is the law, American government exists to serve the American people in our way of life, and we are unapologetic about the fact we're about to enforce this. president ran on it, very popular. He was elected on, among other things, mass deportations. And I'm here for it, right? If that's your version, then like I'm your guy. And I like the bones of that race in a Trump plus 17 district. I like that a lot, actually.
As we close this out, I want you to tell the folks that are watching why you should win. From your deepest core, not the scripts you've memorized as a politician.
Yeah, sure.
Why should you win?
Sure.
Honestly.
Why should they vote for me?
Why should they vote for
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
If you want somebody who has already proven through and can demonstrate through scar tissue that he's been in this fight and wants to simply continue that behavior in D.C. on their behalf, and I know the majority of GOP voters in Texas 32 support the president and his agenda. That's very clear. And if that's what they want, somebody you can trust to always push forward that agenda, to do so not just with bravado, but with competence, even when it's hard and difficult, and you're taking fire from all sides. My background demonstrates that's the kind of person that I am. And if that's what you want, I'd appreciate your vote.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming today.
Appreciate you having me, Jay. Appreciate it, man.
Jace Yarbrough, the voting starts
February 17th.
February 17th is early
Coming
voting.
up, early voting, 2 weeks of it. So go vote February 17th. For those in Rockwall, I'm going to be number 2 on your ballot.
Okay.
If they're in Dallas side of the district, or I'll be number 1, be at the top. And then depending on other counties in the district. But Rockwall will be the second one, and then number 1 in Dallas.
Well, we appreciate you. And folks, we'll see you next time. Thank you.